Hey, this is Eric Nicksick, and thank you for listening to MMA Overtime.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in for the very first time to MMA Overtime on Overtime Heroics' MMA YouTube channel. I am your host, Jendo, joined by Overtime Heroics writer and now content producer on the YouTube channel, Ben Thomas. How are you doing, man? It's exciting to be here. How are you feeling here for episode number 1 over here for Overtime Heroics?
I'm good, and I can't wait to get this going, honestly. We've got some good guests on the show. We've got many lined up for the next weeks, months. So I can't wait for this one to go out, everyone to see it, and it's an exciting future ahead. Let's get on with this, I think.
A huge shout out to both Lewis Simpson and Makoa Gable for giving us this opportunity. A bunch of fun stuff is coming to this YouTube channel. Trust me, I'll be at the head of it. We'll be putting out a weekly show here for MMA Overtime. We'll be putting out a weekly show for the regional scene in the UK. We've got a lot of stuff coming. Just stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button, like the video, drop a comment. We like to hear from you guys. And man, this is a loaded one. We've got Jack Tank Shore, undefeated UFC bantamweight prospect. We've got Madars Fleminas, who just achieved one of the biggest upsets on the regional scene of recent memory. And we've got 2020 co-coach of the year and head coach of Francis the Predator Ngannou, Eric Nicksick, closing off the show. Not to mention, next week, we've got Dewey Black Cobra Cooper. We got that one done. That's phenomenal. That should be dropping at the very beginning of next week. Ben, it's an exciting time, man. Let's go ahead and get the fans right over to Jack Tank Shore and an exclusive he did with us just before UFC 269. Now joining us, our guest, undefeated Welsh bantamweight prospect, Jack Tank Shore. First and foremost, thank you very much for joining us, man. How are you feeling right now, my friend? You've recently had a phenomenal bout announced with fellow undefeated prospect in Umar Nurmagomedov. I know the energy has to be great in your house, man.
Yeah, feeling good, boys. Obviously, I'm coming off a little injury, so it's nice to be back in the gym properly. I think the 8 weeks off, I had guts full of running and kicking the bag. So it's nice to be back in the gym with the boys, sparring, rolling, wrestling. Obviously the fight news and everything like that. So yeah, feeling good. Nice to have a nice little push before Christmas. Obviously, I'll take a week or two, and then obviously hit hard in the new year, ready for the fight.
So outside of fighting, right? Who is Jack Shore? How would you describe yourself away from the cage?
To be honest, probably the polar opposite of what people would expect in a UFC fighter. I'm quite laid back. I'm not a confrontational person. I'm quite introverted. I mean, years and years of doing interviews and podcasts and obviously having cameras in my face has brought me out of my shell a bit. But if you knew me like 8 years ago when I was 18, I wouldn't say boot to a goose sort of thing. You know, I'm with my friends and the guys in the gym. I'm obviously, I enjoy the crack with the boys, but other than that, I'm quite laid back, quite chill. I don't go far. I don't do a lot other than train and play Call of Duty. So I mean, I'm a quiet guy, believe it or not. Like I'm not one of these loud out there guys. It's just I am who I am. I'm just a quiet kid that likes to fight, I suppose.
So why did you become a pro fighter? Out of all things in life, why did you determine that the way you're going to make a living is locking yourself in a cage across from someone who's literally earning a paycheck to try and take your head off?
I think it stems from the old samurai, the old sort of way of the samurai. Like you look back at the samurais and read their books and stuff like that. They were sort of brought up in that environment where it was almost normal to fight. And I got brought up, I had a good upbringing. I didn't want for anything. My parents would have supported me in whatever I done. But I was training from like 6 years of age. My father was a pro fighter himself. So I was just constantly in that environment. And I start when he opened his own gym, obviously it's Show MMA now. It was Tulare Combat at the time. And I was in the gym every night with the boys. And again, I was this quiet little chubby kid. I wasn't necessarily there because I enjoyed fighting. My life was to come home from school and go train in the night. And I was constantly around the likes of Jack Marshman and Chris Edwards and Martin McDonough. And, they're always fighting every other month or every other weekend. They were fighting or doing grappling competitions. And naturally, as a kid, when you're around those guys 5 nights a week, you start to look up to them and you start to want to be like them, especially the likes of, Jack, who went to the UFC, and I think Chris was the first Welsh guy to fight for Cage Warriors. And I just wanted to be like them, I suppose, in a way. I was training just as much as they were, and they were competing, and I wanted to compete. And, my father never really wanted me to get into MMA, I don't think. He would have probably preferred me to stick at rugby. But, I started doing the grappling comps, and then I was badgering him to get me a fight. And he was like, oh, you're too young. Eventually, then at 17, I convinced him to get me a match. And I was just it. I was off to the races then. It was, there was no looking back. And I think in terms of like wanting to do it as a job and full time and make it my career, was probably towards the tail end of my amateur career. Like, again, I said it just now, I was just fighting an amateur because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the training. I enjoyed the martial arts lifestyle, and I enjoyed going in there and testing my skills in a competitive setting. It wasn't like, from the very first time I fought, I was wanting to be a UFC fighter and make money out of it. Obviously, there was no money out of it, especially at amateur. And it was towards the end of my amateur career, I won the IMAF title, and I started to think, I'm half decent at this. I've just won the European title, took out four guys who had, 3 times the amount of fights I had, and I took them out quite comfortably. So I thought, what, let's sort of give this a go. So I went pro, and I was in university studying, and I got to I did my second year. I had 1 year left, and I said to my dad, I'm quitting. I'm going to go and get a job. I'm not doing this anymore, because I couldn't stand uni. And he was like, I'll cut you a deal. He was like, if you do your final year of your degree, I'll support you to train full time for 2 years, and we'll see where it goes. Also, I just signed with Cage Warriors. At the time, Cage Warriors was a little bit different to what it is now. I was 1-0. So to sign for Cage Warriors at 1-0 was unheard of back then. Obviously, now they've built their roster on prospects, whereas back then I was an anomaly. Everyone on there was a top. I remember fighting on a main card with like guys who had 20 pro fights, and obviously it done well. And that was in 2016. He was going to support me for 2 years, and 5-6 years later, I'm still doing it. So it was sort of the end of my amateur career, I suppose. I know that was a long-winded answer, but the end of my amateur career is when I started to think, there's a good chance that you could probably go all away with this and make a career of it.
Oh no, it's definitely welcome, man. Who are some of your favorite fighters growing up?
It's quite a weird mix. Obviously GSP was when I look back when I was a kid, a youngster like 11, 12 years of age, it was always GSP. Whenever he was fighting, it was a big deal. I was badgering my old man to wake me up in the middle of the night to watch him. But then as the years have gone on, like Frank Yeager was a big idol of mine, just how good he was all round and how he carried himself. And, considering my personality is a bit of a strange one, I suppose, but I'm a massive fan of the 2 Diaz brothers as well, like Nick and Nate, especially Nate. I'd probably go out there to say Nate's my favorite fighter of all time. I just love his personality, love his realness. Love his willingness to fight anyone, and they never boring to watch. I know it's strange being that I'm quite like quiet and humble, and Nate's a bit of a doesn't give a fuck type of attitude. But the Diaz brothers, they were like, I suppose they're teenager. They were my two of my favorites to watch. And then obviously recent years, Nate has become this big global super. Like my friends all know Nate Diaz now. They wouldn't have had a clue who he was before he fought Conor McGregor. Mm-hmm. So yeah, those are some of my and my teammates as well. Like some of my favorite fighters to watch are my teammates. Brett Johns. I'm lucky, I get to train with Brett every day. But obviously, growing up as an amateur and as a novice pro, Brett wasn't at my gym at the time, and I couldn't wait for him to fight. He'd be fighting. He fought for the Cage Warriors belt, and he went over to Titan and was fighting, and he signed for UFC. And he was always one of my favorites to watch, just because how good he was. And I used to look at Brett and think, there's no way this guy can be beat. And to get to do a little bit of training and stuff with him back then as well, I think that sort of added to the old, looking up to him and thinking, fucking hell, how good is this guy? Like, imagine being, I used to think, imagine being as good as him, like going into a fight, being that good and not having to worry about your opponent. And then now I get to train him every day. So, Brett was one of my favorites growing up to watch as well.
So today you're now viewed as an elite prospect for the UFC. Can you just take us back to how a young Jack Short on the regional scene initially found out the UFC was interested in you, and how your signing actually came about to be for the UFC?
Yeah, so I had like a couple of sort of interactions with the UFC before I even signed. I was 3-0 for Cage Warriors, and Jack Marshall, my teammate, had just signed for the UFC, and there was a fight card in was it Belfast, I think it was where he debuted, and they got in touch with Graham then. I just signed with Intensity, and Graham was managing me, and I was 3-0. And they needed someone at featherweight on short notice, and the only guy he sort of had other than Paddy at the time, I'm pretty sure Paddy was the Cage Warriors champion at the time, so obviously it didn't make sense for him to go on short notice. I know he was making so much money, with Cage Warriors, so the only guy he had was me, and he didn't even put it to me, Graham. He turned it down and said it was too soon. So that was the first time we heard word of him. Another time, the second time then was when I beat Vaughn Lee. So I think I was 8-0, and again it was like a 3-week notice fight, but I couldn't. I would have probably gone that time, but I broke my hand. So obviously I was in a cast, so I couldn't take the call up that time. And then just before I fought Scott Malone, there was a London card, and Sean Shelby spoke to Graham. Was like, when you gonna fucking let us have Jack Shaw? And he was like, look, he's fighting in April. Let's see what happens. And obviously I beat Malone. I just won the belt, so I beat Ekindeo, and then I defended against Malone. And at the time they were the two top guys in Europe at the weight, and I outclassed the pair of them. And I spoke to Graham and my father, obviously being my coach, and my team, and we was like, there's nothing left here now on the European scene. There's no guys I could have fought that would have been a step up. So like the only guys I would have fought would have been doing them more favors than I would have been doing myself. And then there was a factor of like motivation and stuff like that. So within a week of beating Malone, the UFC had obviously offered me a contract to Graham. It took a couple of weeks obviously for it to get processed and everything. And then I think it got announced in May of 2019. Yeah, May of 2019. And then it just exploded from there. Like you think you're a bit of a big deal in Cage Warriors with how many people watch you, and obviously I've built a massive following at Cage Warriors, and then you start having like the UFC team start announcing your signing and stuff like that, and you realize how big an audience you're now dealing with in comparison, to where you are with Cage Warriors is massive, don't get me wrong, but like the UFC was another level again. So like even before fighting, like even just the news of me signing for them was massive. So it was a whirlwind couple of months, obviously between fighting Malone, signing, and then obviously debuting.
So when you fought Aaron Phillips, obviously domination, UFC Hall of Famer and commentator Michael Bisping compared you to Georges St. Pierre, stating, when I watch this man, he reminds me of a young Georges St. Pierre. He is so technical and is certainly Wales's best chance of having a future UFC champion. At the time hearing that, how did that make you feel?
Yeah, it was a little bit surreal, I suppose, in terms of being not just being compared to GSP, because obviously that's insane in itself how good that guy is, and for me he's the best of all time. So to be compared to him in your second UFC fight is surreal. But to be compared to him by someone like Bisping, who's the best British fighter we've ever had, the first British champion, I think he was, obviously if you don't include McGregor, Hall of Famer, God knows how many fights in UFC, been there, seen it, done it, and fought GSP himself, been in there with the guys. So not only was it surreal to be compared to him, but obviously to have someone like Bisping, who's, again, another guy I grew up watching him on The Ultimate Fighter, watching him headline the UK cards, then win the belt on short notice. Like he's a once in a lifetime fighter, Bisping. So it was surreal, to be honest. It didn't feel real. Obviously, I was very grateful for the comments, but a little bit overwhelmed at the same time. To have someone of that stature compare me to someone else like GSP, it was just insane.
So does it help motivate you at all, knowing that although you're an undefeated former world champion, you're coming from the same world-class promotion that brings us guys like Michael Bisping and Conor McGregor, among others, but you're not really marketed as much as some of the other guys in the division? Does that help motivate you at all?
Yeah, I suppose in a way. I mean, but I'm one of them guys, to be honest. I'm not I'm not going to change who I am to suit the narrative. You know, I'm not a trash talker. You know, like you look at guys like McGregor and Paddy. You know, I that's never been me. So if I come out and start being, you know, this trash talking guy who's calling everyone out and talking shit about everyone, you know, people are going to be like, you know, he's never done that before. Why has he started doing that now all of a sudden? And I don't think it'll come across as authentic. I think if we hadn't been in the COVID situation, I'd be a lot bigger than what I am, to be honest, because I think the UFC would see the type of pull I can confidently say if they put us in a 10,000 seater stadium in Wales, I could sell out on my own. You know, I wouldn't even need an undercard or any names on the undercard to help sell. I could sell out on my own. You know, if we fight in London in March, like I'm hearing rumors of, or if we fight in London any time of the year, I could sell half that stadium out on my own. You know, that's without your likes of Paddy and Darren Till who are going to bring masses of crowds. You know what I mean? So I think that as soon as we start having crowds back in Europe, is when they're going to appreciate what they're dealing with. Like, you know, I was a 9-0 pro, you know, for Cage Wars, didn't even have a title, and I was selling out for 5,000 seaters. You know, I sold the ice arena out 3 times on me and a couple of my teammates and an amateur card. You know, so I got a serious pull over here in terms of support and I got fans all over, not just in Wales but all over the UK as well. Like I got support all over, and even online now I got support from guys from America. And when I fought in the Apex last time, there was guys in there watching that knew me. So I think it'll come, but I'm not going to change who I am for anyone. I know you journalists and, you know, everyone who feel, you know, these guys who've never had a fight but seem to think like, you know, it's easy just to jump in there and start mouthing off on the mic. There's a certain art to it. You know, there's a certain art to what Paddy does. There's a certain art to what McGregor does. You know, look at GSP. If you want to compare me to GSP, look at GSP. When did he ever shout his mouth off and be the loud brash guy? It was never him. That's not who he is, and he never tried to be that guy. And I'm the same. You know, people will either like me for who I am or they won't like me. But you know, you can't ignore results at the end of the day. And I keep winning and keep dominating like I am. Then it's only a matter of time before everyone else jumps on the bandwagon.
So you briefly just mentioned the amateur scenes and the events that you've sold out. And that brings me beautifully on to my next question, which is about Cage Warriors Academy Wales. Obviously, Saturday night in Ebervale was a brilliant show, packed out there. It was a mixed bag of results for Shore MMA, winning 7 out of 11 fights and adding 2 new champions. For you personally, how was it to watch your teammates perform? And on the night, who were some of the guys that you looked at and thought, wow, they were phenomenal?
It's a mix of emotions for me always whenever the boys fight, because you know, for the last it's only the last couple of months they've been able to fight because of COVID and everything. So I've been watching them in the gym, and their level, like for amateur lads, is going up and up and up and up and up. And obviously it's only been the last few months they've been able to show their skills in terms of competition. So I love watching them fight because I like for them to show everyone else how good they are, and you know why I'm not shy of shouting off about my teammates and saying how good they are. And then when they go in there and perform and have a great performance, it like almost not justifies what I'm saying, because I'll say it anyway, but it almost like I'm, you know, now everyone can see what I'm barking on about online. So it's great to see them display their skills, win, lose or draw on the weekend. You know, we had a mixed bag of results, but even the boys who lost, you know, they showed promise and they showed improvements and they showed, you know, that they've all got potential to go on and do big things. But at the same time, I get very nervous watching the boys. I don't really feel too many nerves when I fight myself, because I think it's probably because I'm in control. Like I feel like when I fight, I'm in control. I'm the one in there. Now when I watch the boys fight, you know, they may not see things that I can see, and you know, they may not do things that I would do in certain scenarios. So because I haven't got that control as such, I feel a little bit more nervous for them than I do for myself. But I've always been the same. Like when I've cornered Marshman at the UFC and stuff, and obviously I've watched Brett fight, and I've been a lot more nervous for them than I have myself. So it's always it's a mixed bag, because like I want them to fight and do well and get everyone shouting about them. At the same time, it does make me a little bit nervous and gives me anxiety for a couple of hours. But yeah, I mean, some of the standout guys, like obviously Levi and Rowan are the 2 obvious ones who won the belt. You know, Rowan has been with us now, I think, for about 2.5 years. and that's his first fight under our gym just because of pullouts and COVID. And you know, he won't mind me saying, if you watch Rowan's fight before he joined our gym, he was an out-and-out grappler. You know, if he couldn't get the takedown, he was fucked pretty much. Like, you know, and he won't mind me saying that. If he couldn't get the takedown, chances are he wasn't going to win the fight. He had very little skills on the feet. He had very little wrestling skills. And he went in there Saturday and just looked the complete package. Like, he fought a big, strong guy, a good striker. He dominated him for 2 rounds with his wrestling. I mean, Rowan is like an elite level grappler. You know, a lot of his stuff, you see him fighting off his back. He dominated him with top control, ground and pound. And then he goes out in the 3rd round, you know, lets his hands go, drops the guy, you know, nearly drops him a second time and dominates. You know, I think the scorecards was like 30-25, the one judge had it. So to see him perform like that after 2.5 years of grinding and grafting, that was like a really satisfying one, because I know how hard he's worked to improve his all-round game, and he locked the full package on the weekend. And then the other one was obviously Levi, who's, you know, Levi's one of my main sparring partners. It's incredible to think he's only been training 3 years. You know, he did a little bit of boxing as a kid. He's a freak athlete. You know, he's got freak genetics. But the reality is, he's a 19-year-old kid who's been training since he was 16, and you know, he's a purple belt now, and he's a Welsh Cage Warriors Wales champion. And he fought a really good kid, good striker. You know, he's a strong kid, really tough. Fought good support down with him, but just dominated him really. And you know, Levi's going to go as far as he wants to go in this sport. You know, he's got everything not genetically, he's got everything physically, but also mentally. You know, he doesn't feel too much pressure. He doesn't feel the nerves. He doesn't say a lot. Levi reminds me of myself a little bit when I was in arms. He doesn't say a great deal, but you know, he means business. And he showed on Saturday as well. He's a tough fucker. You know, he had a couple of big shots and still stuck to the game plan and got a big win. You know, and the good thing with Levi and Rowan is they nowhere near going pro yet. You know, they got at least another year or 2 years of fighting amateur. So it just shows, like, to be at that level. If they were at that level, you know, back 5-6 years ago, they'd be going pro now. So it just shows the level that MMA is at in Wales. And another shout out to young Johan Thomas as well. I don't like. He's such a fucking freak. The kid is such a freak. Like, he has days in the gym where he just sticks it on me, and I'm like, he's a 16-year-old kid. Like, at the end of the day, you know, he's still in school, and he's a 16-year-old kid, and he's just fought a 26-year-old man to go 3-0. And you know, he had a tough 3rd round. The man's strength come into it a little bit. You know, his opponent caught him in a bad position and you know, hit him with a couple of nice big takedowns. But even there, under pressure that we've never seen him under before, to stay as he wants to go. He could, like, I don't say it about no one, but he's going to be, I think he will be UFC champion, and I think, you know, he'll probably surpass anything that any Welsh fighter has done so far. I mean, I'm still on my own journey yet. Who knows where I'll go? You know, I got title ambitions, and I've always said I want to be, you know, considered one of the best Welsh fighters that's ever lived. But no doubt in my mind that he's going to be up there with me and Brett Johns and Jack Marshman and John Phillips. And you know, his nickname is the Future, and he is a reason for that. You know, at 16 to be manhandling men like that. He reminds me so much of myself, but he's got so many physical attributes and so many advantages that I didn't have at that age. You know, I think when his plan is to come out of school now and train full time, so that just shows you the mentality of these kids coming up. And there's plenty of kids like him in the gym, you know, that didn't fight on the weekend, but you know, the kid's a freak, and I'm making the most of sticking it on him whilst I can, because he's going to be 90k before long, ragdolling me like I'm a little child. So yeah, shout out to Johan Thomas on a big one as well, and all the boys. You know, all the boys done well, but they were the three performances that stood out.
I mean, obviously these Cage Warriors Academy shows, they're phenomenal. How important are they to your father and Shore MMA, along with the rest of the amateur scene in the UK?
It's very important because, you know, it gives not only does it give the amateurs a platform to perform, but there's no bullshit. You know, there's no the Cage Warriors Academy shows there is no record padding. There's no getting you won't fight. So you see these guys that don't want to fight on Cage Warriors Academy. They're guys that want to pad their record and want the easier fights and want to have a good record on paper. But then when they have an actual real fight, you know, their arse will go because they've never been used to someone fighting someone who's coming to win. You look at every single fight on the Academy show on the weekend, they're all 50-50 fights on paper. All right, on the amateur scene, you know, you have guys who maybe 1 or 2-0, but they're a very good level guys, but they're not on paper. They're good guys against good guys. And it's just important that these kids are getting tested, you know, at a young age. They you know, look at boxing, amateur boxing. There's guys who lose 30 fights and go on to win Olympic medals or go on to become world champions. So that's a bit more. That is what MMA needs. We need to get rid of this this record padding bullshit and these shows that just haven't got a clue. I mean, I hear about some of these shows and I'm thinking like, how is this still a thing? You know, when there's shows like Cage Warriors and Meltdown and stuff like that, and I don't see why, you know, you go out on your doorstep. Why would you want to go and travel an hour to fight on a shit show against a guy who's no good? Because ultimately, if you want to be in the UFC and you want to be the best in the world, you've got to be good enough to beat guys who are the same level as you. Like all our boys on the weekend, well, all the fights, there wasn't one easy fight for anyone. You know, there was no fight on the weekend that you watched and thought, God, that one was a bit of a mismatch. So it's very important for Welsh MMA and all, but it's important for our gym as well because it provides a platform for the boys to fight. You know, they get this opportunity to fight on their doorstep. And, you know, I think I fought in Wales twice as an amateur. So, you know, it just shows that these boys are getting more and more chances to perform in front of their friends and display their hard work as well. And it's also a stepping stone in terms of you get a good couple of wins on the Academy show and you turn pro, your foot's half in the door with Cage Warriors. You know, like my old man's got a great relationship with Graham and Ian. And if he says to them, you know, look, this kid's worth taking a punt on, I think they're probably confident enough to take his word for it. So I think the Academy shows are the way forward there, and the IMAF shows, if you're an aspiring amateur with goals of, you know, wanting to do this as a job and wanting to do it at the top level.
Now, what's on everyone's mind is your upcoming bout with Umar
So before my next
Nurmagomedov.
question, I
With the
started
two
this
of
on
you
the
being
wrong
a
Zoom
combined
account, so the
28
limit is actually up
something
in
has
about
got
6
to
minutes.
give.
After this
I
next
wanted to
question,
ask,
would you mind
how
if I
did that
re-up
pairing come
in,
to be?
in another
Did the
room? I
UFC
apologize,
offer it
man. That is
initially?
Yeah, man,
we
no
don't
problem.
usually see
No problem.
undefeated super
Perfect.
prospects.
Okay, thank you
being
very much,
matched up
man.
like this very often.
Okay. Now, what's on
To be honest,
everyone's
it
mind
just came
is
together. Like
your
all my
upcoming
fights,
bout with
the
Umar
UFC, no,
Nurmagomedov.
I've never
With
turned
the
down a
two
fight.
of
I
you
never will.
being
So
a combined
they offer me King
28
Kong,
and 0,
and
something
I'd
has
say
got
yes,
to
send the
give.
contract. So
I wanted to ask, how did
I
that
had a
pairing
text off
come to
Graham and
be?
said,
Did the
you've
UFC
got to fight
offer it
it.
initially? We don't
It was
usually
initially meant
see
to be
undefeated
the end of
super
February.
prospects being matched up like this very often.
And then I said, "Oh, we fight." And he was like,
To be honest,
it just came together. Like all my fights, said the UFC
sent
no,
the
I don't.
contract
I've
over, and
never
then the
turned down a
contract
fight. I
didn't
never
come for a
will.
couple of
So
days, so I
they
thought,
offered me
perhaps,
King Kong, and
perhaps he
I said
can't do
yes,
it
send
or
the
whatever.
contract.
And
So
then they
got back and said, "Oh, we're moving
I had a
it
text
to,
off Graham
to
and
March."
said, you've
And
got
then
to
the
fight
contract came through. So yeah, I mean, it was
initially meant to
no.
be the end of
There was
February.
no like, oh,
What
about
about
this other guy, and then
you know,
I
can I
said,
fight him
we
instead?
fight.
There
There
was
was like
none of that.
Umar.
I was like, yeah,
no worries.
Umar. And I was like,
yeah,
no worries.
send the
Send me
contract over,
contract.
and then the contract
Signed
didn't
it
come
and
for
sent
a
it
couple
back
of
within
days,
the
so I thought,
hour.
oh, perhaps
Here we are, good to go.
perhaps
If
he
you want
can't
to
do
be
it
the
or
best in the
whatever,
world,
and then
fight whoever
they
they put in
got
front of
back
you,
and
and
said,
that's
"Oh, we're
always been
moving
my
it
attitude at
to March."
Pro.
So
I'll
and then
never
the
turn down a
contract
fight
came
with
through.
anyone.
So, yeah, I mean,
As
there was
long as they got
no
enough time to
there was no like
prepare,
oh,
make
make
weight.
weight.
You
You
know,
know,
as
an
an
added
added
bonus that I get to enjoy
can I
Christmas
fight him
because
instead? There was none of that.
until March
It was
rather than
just
February. You're fighting Umar.
So yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
yeah, no worries.
that's pretty much it.
Like boring, I know.
Sent him back within the hour.
There was no heated discussions, no back and forth.
If
you want to be the best in the world,
fighting
you
this
got to fight
guy,
whoever
I
they
was
put
like,
in
yeah,
front of
no
you, and
problem.
that's always been my
I
attitude.
think we need more of that in the sport.
I'll
though.
never
Say it's
turn down a
boring,
fight
but
with
I think,
anyone
we'd
as
benefit.
long as they got enough time
The
to
sport would benefit greatly from
prepare,
having
make
more of
weight.
it.
You
I
know, as
wanted
an
to
added
ask,
bonus
though,
I get to
does this
enjoy
fight
Christmas
have
because
any
it's
extra
now
meaning,
not till March
considering who
rather than
the opponent
February.
is,
So
the
yeah, I
background
mean,
he's coming from? A
that's
lot of
pretty
people
much
like
it.
to
Like,
cast doubt
boring,
on
I
the guys
know.
coming over from
You
the
know, there was no
UK
heated
scene.
discussion.
So would it
no
mean a
back
little
and forth.
extra
It
to
was,
defeat someone
you're
who,
fighting this guy,
because
and I
of
was
his
like, yeah, no
last
problem.
name and because of
I
where he's
think we
from,
need
for
more
many
of that in
people
the
is
sport,
viewed
though.
as
You
one
say
of the
it's
best
boring, but I
prospects in the
think
division?
we'd benefit
The sport would benefit
I mean, I
greatly
don't know
from
if
having more
it'll
of
add
it. I
any
wanted to
extra as
ask,
such,
though,
you know,
does this
a win
fight
against
have
anyone
any
is,
extra
for me,
meaning,
is big in the
considering who the
UFC,
opponent
but
is,
like you
the
said,
background he's
undefeated,
coming from?
you know,
A lot of people
Khabib's
like to cast
cousin,
doubt on the
Khabib
guys
will more than
coming over
likely be in
from
his
the UK
corner.
scene. So would it mean a little extra to
So
defeat someone
it's
who,
just an ice
because
skate
of his
fight, you
last
know, you
name and
don't
because
very
of where
often
he's
see two
from, for many
undefeated
people
guys
is
meeting
viewed as
so
one of
early
the
in their
best
career.
prospects in the division?
And because
Yeah,
of
I
who
mean,
it is,
I don't know
think
if
it'll
it'll add
bring
any
more eyes
extra
and more
as such,
attraction
you
to
know,
the fight.
a win against
everyone,
anyone is,
you know,
for
he's
me,
almost
big
seen
in
as the
the
mini
UFC,
Khabib.
but
So, you know,
like you said,
he looks very
undefeated,
similar to him. He
you know,
fights very similar
Khabib's
to
cousin,
so
Khabib
will more than likely be in his
but,
corner.
you know, like I said
before, I'm not
so
meant to be
it's
just an ice
stepping
skate
stone
fight.
to
You
the
know,
rankings,
you don't very often see two undefeated
that's not
guys
who I am.
meeting
I'm
so early
making
in their
to
career.
win to win in style, and
because of who it
you
is,
know,
I think it'll
I'll
bring more eyes
I'll
and more
take the fight
attraction
wherever we want to take the fight.
You know,
If
he's
the
almost seen
wrestling
as the mini
cancels each other
Khabib.
out,
So
we
you know,
gotta go on the
he
feet.
looks
We
very
will if he
similar
wants
to
to
him. He
wrestle.
fights very similar to
Then I can
him.
show him a bit
So-
of Welsh wrestling as well.
But you know,
like
he's a very, very high level guy.
I know
meant
that
to be
he's
is
excellent everywhere.
stepping
And
stone
coming
to
from
the
the rankings,
rankings,
I know he's going to be elite. So
that's
it
not who I
just
am. I'm
motivates
motivated
me
to
train
win and
as hard as I've ever
to win
trained
in style and
put that extra
you know,
work in and
I'll
make
I'll
sure
fight.
that I'm
I'll
in
take
prime
the fight
position
wherever we
to
want to
go
take
in
the
there.
fight.
And
And
if the
I'm sure he'll be
wrestling
doing the
cancels
same.
each
You know,
other out, then we gotta go on
don't
the
doubt
feet.
that
We will if he
he's
wants
not
to
going to take
wrestle.
me lightly. You know,
Then
looking
I
at
can
a
show
guy who's 15
a bit
and
of
0.
Welsh wrestling as well. But
He's
you know,
gonna
he's
watch
a
my
very,
footage
very high level
and
guy.
see
I know that
I'm
I'm
an
excellent
level as
everywhere.
well. So
And coming from that camp,
you know, it'll be the first time we
so
meet.
it
I'm
just
sure it won't be the
motivates
last
me to
time we
train
meet. And
as hard as I've ever trained.
A great fight
and
for
put that extra
the
work
fans,
in
hopefully,
and make sure that I'm in prime position to go in there.
So
And I'm
after
sure
this
he'll be
past
doing the same,
weekend,
you know,
I think
I
it's safe to
don't doubt
say
that he's
the
not gonna
135
take me lightly,
division is
you know,
on
looking at a guy who's
absolute
50 and
fire at
0.
the moment. So
He's going to watch my
personally
footage
for you,
and
what sort
see
of
that,
matchmaking
that I'm
would
elite
you like
level
to
as
see at
well. So,
bantamweight with
you
Yan
know,
and
it'll be the
Aljo
first
on a
time we
collision
meet. I'm
course
sure it
with the
won't be the
previous
last time
result,
we meet.
and
I'm
Jose
sure it'll be
Aldo versus
a
TJ
great
Dillashaw
fight
basically
for
booking
the
it south
fans,
at this
hopefully,
point.
if
What would
there are fans
you
out
do
there.
with guys like Rob Font
Perfect.
and
Thank
Corey
you, man. I'm
Sandhagen,
going to
who've
stop the
just come off tough losses?
Yeah, it's the problem with the division is it's so strong that there's not really an easy fight. Even if you come off a loss in the top 10, you can't really get a warm-up fight. If you know, like whereas in boxing, if you picked up a loss, you'll probably have maybe one or two warm-up fights and then go back into another big fight. Whereas with the UFC, you know, you don't get that. So I mean, you could probably put you know, Sandhagen and Font in together, or I mean, even look further down the list, you got Song just had a big win. I know Dominic Cruz and Munoz, Pedro Munoz are fighting on the weekend. So maybe let out maybe someone like Font, perhaps chuck him in with someone who's a little bit lower, you know, like a Song or I know Stanman's but you know what I mean, someone like that. Like you said, Aldo and TJ are gonna fight, and obviously you got a title fight, Aljamain and Yan, but there's so many good fights here that could happen. I mean, if Dominic Cruz wins on the weekend, he's always a guy that's going to be in the mix because of being a former title challenger. And to be fair to Dom, I mean, he's took a few fights now against guys who you know, not as big a name as he's used to fighting. So if he wins, maybe put him up there with a guy like Sandhagen, you know. Chito Vera is another one. You know, he's on a good. I think he's on a good win streak. He's just had a big win over Frankie, so I wouldn't even mind seeing Chito against someone like Rob Font or someone like the Sandhagen. But it's so deep. I mean, but between 15 and 1, you could chop and change any of those, and you're going to get a world class fight. But you know, Aldo looked so good on the weekend, and you know, I was one of those guys when he came to 135. I thought, you know, is this a wise move at this stage in his career? But I mean, obviously he's looked fucking brilliant since. So it'd be nice to see him go on and fight for the belt again and maybe win it, because he's had such a good career. Like to think he's only 34, 35 and he's still producing these type of results after so long at the top is insane.
I mean, you've just mentioned countless guys at the top of their game in your division, and it just shows that it is one of the most stacked divisions in the entirety of the sport. So regardless of promotion, past or present, what would be a dream fight for you? A few dream fights, maybe even. Would you go in there with a GSP?
I don't like going in with GSP. These type of results after so long at the top is insane.
I mean, you've just mentioned countless guys at the top of their game in your division, and it just shows that it is one of the most stacked divisions in the entirety of the sport. So regardless of promotion, past or present, what would be a dream fight for you? A few dream fights, maybe even. Would you go in there with a GSP?
I don't like going in with GSP. He's a bit fucking big for me, but I mean, there's so many good guys I would have loved to have fought. I mean, Frank Edgar, I say I'd love to fight Frank. I wouldn't really, because he's that much of an idol. It would probably be tough to fight him, but you know, being that I grew up watching him win the UFC title and I was such a fan, it'd be a mad one to say I was in there with him. You know, people like Uriah Faber, who was always a big name when I was a kid growing up, and people like him, I'd love to fight. Frankie, even like looking up a featherweight, people like Chad Mendes, you know, watching those fights with Aldo and stuff like that. I mean, I'm young, but I'm old school in terms of names of the guys I want to fight, because these are the guys I grew up watching. You know, I think as good as like the modern day guys are, like your Holloway and your Volkanovski and obviously Peter Yan, I didn't grow up watching those guys. You know, I'm almost to an extent in the same era as they are. Whereas the legends like Frankie and Uriah, Chad Mendes, people like that, those are people like, in terms of dream matchups, you know, that I would love to get in. BJ Penn's another one. I mean, not now obviously, because him and Faber and people like that are a little bit past it. So I'm not calling out fucking guys who are done as such. But if we're talking like in their prime, you know, it'd be great. People like that. I mean, even Aldo. Imagine getting to fight Aldo. Like, you know, that guy was the pound for pound one at one stage when I was coming up in the sport and had ambitions again in the UFC. So imagine getting to step in there with him. There's so many legends through the years. Or if you could wind back the clock and put yourself in a different time frame, then it'd be fun to get in there with them.
Thank you very much, man. Let the fans know where to find you, and we'll get you on out of here.
Yeah, check me, guys. I'm on all social medias. Jack Show MMA on pretty much everything. I got a YouTube channel, Jack Tank Show, and I'm also on Twitch. I'm pretty shit, but we have a good laugh on there. So my Twitch is Jack Show MMA as well. So check it out, and check out Show MMA online. If you're in Wales and looking for a quality gym, the best gym, then you know where to come find us.
Thank you for joining us, my friend. Special thanks to Jack Tank Shore for giving us the time of day. What a phenomenal speaker. What a phenomenal interview, man. As you can tell, we look a little bit different. That was over a week ago. We got it out for you guys here on MMA Overtime #1. And up next, Madars, the Latvian Express Fleminas, coming off a victory over Oban Elliot. Huge win for him. Gutting loss for the Shore MMA prospect out of Wales. But man, what did you take away from our interview with Jack Shore as we prepare to go into Madars here?
I mean, Jack Shore is one of the most motivated human beings in the UK scene at the moment, and 15-0 going up against Nurmagomedov, hopefully at UFC London. It's going to be a challenge, but it's one I'm looking forward to, and I think he will get the job done. If he goes 16-0, he's just climbing up that bantamweight ladder. And that title shot with a win over Nurmagomedov, it's got to be coming. But I thought he was incredible. He's a brilliant guy. He's so motivated. His team are amazing at Shore MMA, and the future is bright. Hence why I've got the shades on today. The future is bright for the Welsh tank.
It sure is. And we've got Madars Fleminas coming up. The Latvian Express is ready to go. We'll shoot you right over to that exclusive right here on MMA Overtime. Our guest today is the Latvian Express, Madars Fleminas, 9-3 MMA record, and recently defeated Oban Elliot at Cage Warriors 131. How are you feeling today, my friend? I know Ben's excited to get asking you about Oban a little bit later on.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Just finished work, pack my bag and go to training. That's all.
So let's just get straight into it. Let's talk about Friday night. Obviously, Oban Elliot is one of the biggest up-and-comers in UK martial arts at this current time. And you put on a brilliant performance against him, finishing him in the second round. Just how big of a win is that for you? Because on the broadcast, I heard Dan Hardy say that it's a massive name in UK martial arts, Oban Elliot. So to get that win, how big is that for you?
It's not that much about how big the fight for me was. I obviously, when I took the fight, I know he got some hype behind him. So that was the reason I asked for it, because after my previous lose to Jack Grant, obviously I need some bump up. So I know Oban did a good job to destroy Ngannou'S. So, and that after fight interview was make my decision to ask for the fight. So it's fun. It's a fun favorite fight. I know it's gonna be a lot of fans who's gonna support Oban because in Wales they all love him, and he's a cool guy as well. So yeah, why not? I think we delivered it anyway. They talk about our fight like people's main event, so I'm quite happy about it.
Like you said, it was the people's main event. For me, certainly it was the main event. I had all my eyes on it. I was at Cardiff Station watching it on my phone, freezing, and I was tuning in because it was the main event. So obviously, such a big win. How are you going to celebrate this victory? Do you have any plans, family vacation, or is it straight back to hunting for that Cage Warriors gold?
No, it's definitely straight back to the hunting. I got a little quiet Christmas time with my family, with my two lovely kids and wife. We'll spend a little bit over the Christmas, but I already back in the gym. I already try, work on my mistakes in the fight, obviously. And yeah, it's like, I wasn't happy actually about the fight as well because of, I don't know what's happened in Cage Warrior with the canvas. If you saw the first round, we was like on our ice skates, both of us.
Yeah, it looked very slick.
I slip over about twice, and commentators say, "Oh, Oban's landed the shot," where is quite clearly you can see he's missed the shot, but I've slipped over, and then 10 seconds later, Oban coming forward, slip over himself. So it was fun. I don't know. So it was great when he chose to start wrestling with me, so I can show the people I got skills over there as well. But yeah, I was well disappointed because I was looking forward to more for striking than of wrestling. But it is what it is. I did what I need to do, so it's all good fun.
So Cage Warriors is one of the promotions that's really putting guys out there into big spotlights. I was wondering if you would ever consider leaving Cage Warriors if a promotion like Bellator came calling before the UFC. We recently saw Jack Grant make the jump successfully. Would that be something you would consider going over to Bellator potentially before going to the UFC?
I just signed a new contract with Cage Warriors. I like the Ian's Dean.
How many fights?
For 5 fights. So I got 4 fights left with Cage Warriors, and I'm happy to finish them all in there, and then we will see what's happened. But yeah, I'm happy with the promotion. It's a good place to be. I don't know. I can't say nothing bad about it. They look after me. I got hard fights that way. You won like a fighter, fight the best, and that's all why I'm here. I just try get for the gold,
And it definitely puts you on the UFC radar. We've seen so many people come over from Cage Warriors successfully, and especially we also have Jack Shore, who is going to be featuring a little bit later on this episode. And when we spoke to him, he was talking about how class of a promotion Cage Warriors is. So yeah, it's really nice to see the loyalty that they're building in their guys. And I also wanted to touch on for some fighters, losses are where they grow most. How did it feel for you to have experienced 3 high-level losses to this point in your career to really tough competition? And what did you learn from them moving forward? Because you're looking better than ever.
Yeah, obviously, after last fight, I hear some couple people telling me, "Oh, you need work on your grappling," but it's not the case. I know where my grappling is. I know how good of wrestling I have it to compete in Cage Warriors. But yeah, but by any means, I got Jack Grant on my back, one of the best grapplers in Europe. So I get choked out. But yeah, every fight got a little story. Jack Grant fight, yeah, I think I still could win. I just didn't stick to the game plan by thinking, by starting landing the shots and going too much forward. I got a little bit different style than anybody else. What I bring up every time on the table, I'm not marching forward and try to take each other's head off. I taking my time to bring the pace higher and higher. And I think it's quite awkward style striking wise, and a little bit funky style in the wrestling. Like you see how dominant I was on second round against the Oban Elliot. And then the fights what I lost, yeah, like I say, every fight got story behind, but only fight, from what I really learned, it was against Adam Proctor. He was better that night, and he showed I need to do a lot of improvements, and what I was working on it, and I think they come all together, all the improvements that I made, and Figler fight, I still count that was on a 10-day notice from my side. I jumping in, well, on the same time splitting up with my old coach. So yeah, I still think he's getting lucky. I don't care what they're saying. And we one day we might run it that one back as well. Hopefully he's gonna get the belt. So yeah, I'm looking forward. I love it. I love fighting, you know, so it's all good for me.
No, we can see it every time you're in the cage. So for a lot of guys before they're in the UFC, they fight really uneven competition. What is it that makes you consistently want to take these high-level fighters and these high-level tests when you walk out there for Cage Warriors?
Is what's the point to do padded MMA record? You know, you fight the best guys to see. Well, if you can't handle it, anyone in Cage Warriors, how are you expecting to handle somebody in UFC? You know, so if you just fight, and every fight what you fight, you grow as well. It's like the competition is what's make your level higher. Every time you compete, you get in better. 100%, you getting better. You learn or you get better. That's the thing. You just need to fight the best guys to find out where you stand, where to work on, and that's what I'm doing. I take all the hard fights, and looking forward to next one as well, you know.
So let's now go to the start of the Latvian Express's journey. What got you into the sport of MMA itself?
It's just the way when I come to England, you know, all foreign people choose to go to work in a factory. So I couldn't see myself going to work in a factory. So I start training boxing, kickboxing, and from there I find it boring. And I started doing MMA. I did my first amateur MMA fight while I lost. I did without any jiu-jitsu and wrestling background, but I fall in love. I just find one of the best coaches around Grimsby, James Bateman, and he showed me with the hard work and dedication you can get whatever you want, you know. So, and I was quite happy in a short time of period. I made to Cage Warriors. I got second contract with them, and yeah, just happy to compete in there, happy to compete with the best guys in Europe, and I'm happy to bring that little bit different style for people to watch, you know.
So you've obviously just got a big name on your resume in Oban Elliot. In a year's time, where do you see yourself being?
Oban Elliot is, I think I got bigger names than Oban on my record, but Oban Elliot is, so I think Oban Elliot probably got biggest hype who I fight.
That's a good way.
He's got some skills. He's got some skills. He's really tough and really good guy. I like it. And where I see myself after 1 year, I don't know. I think I'm gonna take one more fight. I don't know. There's a couple guys, obviously. The Italian who just lost on the weekend I think it's a good matchup. Or Alexi Montequini, I love to run back with him as well because I pull out from the fight what I don't like to do, you know, with the injury. Hopefully I can do that one in Liverpool in March so I can bring my crowd to support me and not get booed out from the house, you know. And I hopefully Figler gonna win the fight, and who knows, might run it back one day.
So you said that you wouldn't fit in a factory. If you weren't an MMA fighter right now, right? What would you be doing? What would the Latvian Express be if not a pro MMA fighter?
I definitely find something else. I don't know. I'm just feeling like I just don't like work. You know,
Yeah.
I don't like go to work. I don't like wake up early. I like wake up when I want. I go get my work done, and then I got quite lucky. I got good couple friends who look after me, helping with sponsoring me for the fights, so I can live the dream. You know, so yeah, it's all work out well for me. So I don't know where I've been if no martial arts for sure.
So, looking back to the start of your career, who were your biggest idols when growing up?
Like through martial arts, you mean?
Yeah.
And martial arts, anything. Who was the person you looked at and thought?
Yeah, it was is all my childhood. I was watching just one fighter. I love Badr Hari, the bad boy. You know, I don't know that he was like a little inspiration. I know he's not MMA fighter, but yeah, I just love it. Love it. His style. Love it. His attitude. Always, you know. So yeah, that me growing up was look after him. So yeah.
So then, obviously, looking forward, if you could pick any martial artist in the world, who would your dream fight be? Maybe from the past or the future?
Yeah, I probably would try with the Max Holloway. He's still, he's like idol me. It's like I like his high pace, always in the face, always throwing the shots. So yeah, it's like I love it. I love to fight Max Holloway. I like him to piss me off, you know.
So what's the end goal of your MMA career? We see a lot of guys come out and say one thing or the other, but what is the reason that you pursue fighting?
Why I'm doing fighting? I love to fight. It's just is them 15 minutes or that one day before the fight is like, I don't know, is a different feeling. That one day you're feeling like time stops. You just live for that day, you know. And when you walk in a cage, it's just another level feelings. Like you're so present, like nowhere else, you know. You just there. So there is no another option. And for that feeling, I just love step in the cage and feel every time the same feeling. Win, lose or draw, I always will come to fight. And I will try to do my best to win the fights. And the main goal, what I see, I take by steps. The main goal for me now is the Cage Warriors title. And soon as I'm gonna reach that goal, we're gonna look forward. I'm not the youngest one, I understand. I'm 33, but yeah, at the minute, the main goal is get the Cage Warriors belt. And yeah, if I need to fight anybody, I'm gonna fight anybody for it.
We have reached the end of this one. I got one more question for you, my friend. When do you plan on fighting next? When do we see the lot being expressed back in the octagon?
I hear Cage Warriors coming to Manchester or Liverpool. So that's where loads of my fan base living around. So I hope, hopefully, I will compete over there so I can bring my crowd and take the roof off, you know.
Thank you very much for joining us. If there's one more thing I can ask, can you go ahead and say, hey, this is Madars Fleminas, and you're listening to MMA Overtime.
Hey, this is Madars Fleminas, and you're listening MMA Overtime.
Once again, thank you to Madars, the Latvian Express Fleminas. Great interview, man. He was a blast to speak to. Woke up at about 6 a.m. my time to get that one done, but he's up until 4 a.m. in the UK right now to get this one recorded. Madars was fantastic, but we have reached our headline guest of the evening. We've got Eric Nicksick coming up, 2020 Co-Coach of the Year. This one was fantastic. I hope you guys have stayed tuned till here, and if you have, you're truly about to get rewarded. We transition you over to Eric Nicksick right now. Our guest today is one half of the 2020 Co-Coach of the Year award from MMAJunkie.com, head coach over at Extreme Couture, Eric Nicksick, man. Thank you for joining us. What's going on with you? How are you feeling right now?
Doing good, man. Just got out of practice with the big guy and went to my kids' play and just got home. So yeah, everything's good.
So outside of fighting, right, and outside of coaching, who is Eric Nicksick? How would your wife and the people close to you beyond fighting describe you? Because I don't see how you got much time to do anything else.
Yeah, my wife would probably call me a madman. I think I'm constantly occupied by the fight game. Man, it's kind of a sickness, bro. Like I'm constantly chasing wins. It's a nasty addiction that I think I might have. But I think it's living in Vegas, being born and raised in Vegas. I think you see a lot of people with some of the worst addictions you can possibly manage. And I think having an addiction to winning fights is probably a healthy one.
So what led to you deciding to be an MMA coach at all? And how did you end up in the position that you're in with Extreme Couture?
Yeah, I've been at Extreme Couture for almost 15 years. You know, I came there looking for I guess, some camaraderie. I guess like-minded individuals wanted to be around people that wanted to push me. And I felt like I was just kind of in a tailspin in a way. You know, I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I found the gym. I found Randy. I found, Mike Pyle, Martin Campman, Jay Huron, guys that really, really pushed and drove me. And then I got hooked up with Dennis Davis and really just started focusing, more and more on my game. And then kind of fell into coaching, really. I started coaching Coach Dennis and going on the road with him. And all the while I was testing for be a firefighter paramedic. And, there's kind of a crossroads there for me, and decided I wanted to take over the gym. So that's kind of where it led me to.
So there are a lot of coaches out there, but there aren't many that are seen quite as much as we see you. Where did you develop the work ethic that you have now?
I think a lot of times, for me, I felt like I was, I wouldn't say I was lazy, but, there was a point there in my life where, it was really my wife. She kind of nut checked me at one point and challenged me, to do a lot of bigger and better things with my time and with my life. And it was an eye-opening experience for me. And having my first child really woke me up to the real world and to understand what commitment was, what being a father was. And, I really just wanted to make sure that I was occupying my time wisely and being proactive with that time. And I really fell in love with the sport, and I fell in love with the athletes that I was surrounded with. So I started to realize that you could find time throughout your day and occupy it correctly, get off social media, stop sitting around watching TV and really find the right time to do the things that really matter the most. And, that for me ended up being chasing wins and becoming a top level coach.
That's amazing. So Tyson Chartier posted to his Instagram today a great clip of you giving Rob Font some words of encouragement after his loss to Jose Aldo. How is your relationship with Tyson and the NE Cartel crew?
He's my brother, and a lot of people don't really understand what we go through on the road together. And early in our MMA careers, the training room is where you start to rub elbows with other coaches. And, you're the red corner or blue corner. And now it's different, obviously, with the pandemic era and stuff like that. But fight week was always fun because we always were traveling, man. We're always on the road together. And we would see each other on the road quite a bit. And, we were the young up and coming coaches, and we just kind of gravitated to one another. There was no ego there, and I could say that too for like Henry Hooft and Brandon Gibson and Trevor. Like, you see those guys on the road, man, you can always go and pick their brain and sit and chat. But for some reason, Tyson and I always had just this camaraderie with one another that we knew that we could be ourselves. We could talk. You could be vulnerable. We could ask each other questions. And we've always been close, and I speak to him probably 2 or 3 times a week, to be honest with you. He'll call me about fights and we'll go bounce stuff back and forth.
How cool was it to split the Co-Coach of the Year award that you guys got from MMA Junkie together, of all people?
Man, I got goosebumps, when you said it, bro. Like, it was probably, like, for me, it meant more to me to have it split with him. Like, there's more to the story than people really understand, so I called him to tell him. Like, he didn't know. I FaceTimed him. And he was just getting done, I think, training with Calvin Cater, and he was in the cage. And I was like, hey, you got Coach of the Year an MMA Junkie. He's like, what? And I was like, yeah. And co-coach of the year with me. And he's like, no way. So we were super happy together, man. I just think it just showed a lot about, our perseverance, I think, in this sport, and being told that, maybe this isn't for you, or, you'll never be as big as, or whatever it may be. I don't know. But having him side by side in this journey, man, has been great.
So he talked about the Instagram post by Tyson Chartier. I want to double down on Instagram a little bit, but on a bit more of a somber note. You yourself today posted a photo of the late, great Robert Follis, and many fans of the sport today may not remember him or even recognize the name, but I was actually lucky enough to meet Coach Follis and speak to him in person when he was still in Oregon here at Team Quest. And I just wanted to ask, what can you say about Coach Follis and his impact, not only on you, but Extreme Couture, the fighters he was around, and fighting itself as a whole.
Yeah, he was a master. He was a wizard of words and very well read. And he was a very good mentor to me. So I don't think I'm in the position. I know I'm not in the position I'm at today without him. He saw something in me before I ever even seen it myself. And I remember being in Kansas City with him for a fight. I think he was cornering Tim Elliott. I might have been cornering Roy Nelson. And, he told me, he's like, bro, like, you're going to take this sport over one day. Like, you have something very special. You have a leadership quality about you that a lot of people don't have. He said, once your fight IQ and your situational awareness catches up to your leadership, you're going to be one of the best in the game. And I never believed that until I heard it from him, so he helped me see something that I didn't even see in myself. And he had that ability, I think, amongst many, many people, the Misha Tates of the world, the Kevin Lees of the world, a lot of that lineage, I think, that he's left behind, and I still talk to his brother. I talk to his brother almost once a week, and I just talked to Rick today.
That's awesome.
So it's nice to have that connection to him still, because, I think a lot of times when I talk to Rick, I feel like I get to talk to Robert, so there's a nice connection there. And Rick writes me after every fight. There's not a fight that goes by where I don't hear back. I don't hear from his brother, whether it's constructive or what he thought or what he saw. But it's in a lot of ways, I feel like I get to talk to Rob. So yeah, man, it's hard to talk about, because 4 years gone, and, he didn't leave on the best terms at Extreme Couture, but I only remember him for the good things, and the things he taught me.
Yeah, I appreciate you touching on that at all. It's a spectacular story, and what really is, the rest of it is a sad story. But to move back into the fighting portion of things, man, just a couple of weeks ago, you cornered Jeremy Kennedy and Kai Kamaka to wins at a Bellator event in Connecticut. Next day, you're on a plane flying back to the opposite side of the country to Vegas, only to corner 4 more guys. And let's not forget, that card started a bit earlier than usual. It started, I think, at 4 p.m. Pacific time, not 7.
Yeah.
So how difficult is it for you to find the time to watch film, strategize, coach, and corner as many fighters as you do? You say there's always time to find, and yeah, I agree with that for most people, but I don't think there's many people that can find as much time as you do. Does it ever overwhelm you?
It does. It can at times, but I think for me, I have such a great supporting cast as well. Eddie Baracco helps me a ton, and we feed off each other a lot. Jimmy Gifford helps with a lot of those guys. Dennis Davis, we just have such a great supporting cast that I think that, it's important to delegate at times, and it's important to oversee. But all the while, I love the challenge, man. Like, I was thinking to myself, like, I'm getting on this plane, and, we got three this week, and then Dan the next week. And I'm just up for the challenge. And I just like to feel like, I don't win, you don't win an award or anything like that, but I don't know, man. I guess I'm just different breed, bro. I was excited for it, and I was up for the challenge. And, obviously going 4-2 was going to keep me up at night. I wanted to go 6-0, but it is what it is. So there's always 2022, and try it again.
So as an MMA fan looking in, I've always been kind of into how the corner feel in certain fights. So when you look at the Francis Ngannou Stipe Miocic fight, second fight, how did you feel when Ngannou stepped into the octagon? That must have been a whirlwind of emotions for you and the whole corner.
Yeah, it was weird because I didn't feel much of anything at that moment. I think when he got in there, in a lot of ways, you're just kind of led by faith, I guess. I mean, I don't know if whatever. It was like it was out of your hands at that point. There's only so much you can do, and I just had this overwhelming sense of calmness when he got in there. And the moment the fight started to go, and the way he looked, and the way I can feel his energy, and I was, Dewey's and Stipe's, and I could just see it all unfolding. And I actually cracked a joke with him when we got him on the stool going around too, because I was like, "Oh man, it's nice to see you on the stool for once." Every fight you ended in the first round, we've never got you on the stool. And he's like, "Oh yeah, this is kind of cool." We're cracking jokes, and it was just lighthearted, and we knew the work was done, and the game plan was there. He executed everything perfectly, and it was just fun to watch. I had the best seat in the house, to be honest with you.
So I'm just gonna step in there for a second. So we just spoke to Dewey. You mentioned Dewey. How is your guys' relationship, man? Because clearly something's working with what you guys got going with Francis.
I mean, dude, I think the world of the guy. You know, we've been together a long time. You know, Dewey's helped me out with a lot of fights. He was there when Ray Sefo fought Ray's last fight against Dan Huckabee for World Series of Fighting. Dewey was in the corner with me then, and I think we just really created this bond and this kinship, I think. And there's never an ego there. You know, there's no one above the team. And, you know, where he's at, I'm at, and we work together very, very well. We worked with Kevin Lee together in the past. We've had other fighters that we shared, but we understand that Francis is different in a lot of ways because Francis tries to build more of a coaching staff, but also a family around him. And myself and Dewey have always been very close. So I think that just that kinship really, really makes the relationship a lot better. And, you know, my mom loves him. My mom calls him. My mom writes him almost every day, you know, so he's just a big part of the family. And his energy is always on point, man. And he's just such a good dude to be around.
So let's go back to talking about the big man, Francis Ngannou. I mean, and more specifically, the fight evolution of Francis Ngannou. So in the first fight against Stipe Miocic, it was kind of clear to see he was being outdone in the wrestling departments. However, in their rematch, he just looked absolutely sensational. And he didn't give Stipe a chance to even take the fight down to the canvas. Just talk to me about the evolution of Ngannou and his improvements and how they'll help him against Cyril Gane, who is just another level of crazy.
Yeah, I think for Francis, we've just had a lot of time in the lab that a lot of people really didn't get to see. You know, he's been training at Extreme Couture, I think, for the last 5-6 fights now, but he's been finishing people in the first round. So the things that he's been improving on, he hasn't really had to show on tape or in an actual live fight. So those questions, deservedly so, were always questions that people would say, like, oh, well, how's his wrestling, or how's this, or how's that? Now, is he an all-American wrestler, a world-class wrestler? All I know is I can say that he's been in wrestling every Wednesday for however many years. And we know the type of level of athlete that he is. He's only going to get better. And for us, in the game plan for the fight was we wanted to not throw punches. We wanted to place punches. We wanted to put punches where if we were to hit Stipe in certain ways or certain areas of his body, it would negate level change. And if he were to level change, it would be on our terms. So it wasn't like a surprise wrestling. So if you go back and watch the first fight, Francis was overthrowing a lot of punches and making himself off balance, where the takedown was very easy for Stipe. It made him very susceptible. But if we were able to place punches and put them where they had validity, and it would negate some of those level changes or some of those shots where, okay, if we hit him with this, we're going to see the shot coming from much further away, and we're going to be able to anticipate it a lot better and defend it a lot better. So I think it's kind of the chicken or the egg. It's, you know, we had to set it up better with our hands and our striking and make sure we weren't throwing things too erratic. And also, if it does happen, let's make it happen on our terms. And the last part of that whole thing is, if and when he does come here inside, it's on our terms, but you got to make this motherfucker pay. He can't come in here for free. And if he does, you got to make sure he knows if he comes in here, he's going to get hit. And I think a lot of that was a nice deterrent too, because we were able to spin, get to his back. And some of those uppercuts, if he's hitting them under his armpit, those were fight enders, man. It was right in front of us, right in front of our corner. And the way those punches were landing, I was like, oh, he's going to put him to sleep right here, you know? So that'll make you think twice about coming inside on him.
So now with UFC 270 coming up, how has the energy been in the gym with Francis? Is there any extra motivation considering the ties he's had in the past to Cyril Gane, Coach Fernand Lopez, and MMA Factory?
Nothing like too much to stand out. And he actually said something to me about it a couple of days ago, because I was getting a little like hype about it. I was like, man, don't shut these mouths. You know, and he's like, that's what they want. Like, they want to try to take you out of your game and out of your element. You know, and he goes, to me, it's just, it's another fight. I need to be focused on the fight. And he's right, because, you know, I don't try to add too much more to this. It's already, the stakes are already high.
He's
a title fight.
you.
Well, you know, sometimes for me, man, I'm like that redheaded ginger ready to, and ready to go. I was like, man, let's knock these months. And he's like, oh, so, but, and he's right. And I don't really take too much into the bulletin board material, and he just doesn't want to get himself out of his element, because you go in there with emotion, they win. That's how they win. They take you out of your element. And so he's right. We have to stay on course and understand that, yes, this guy is deserving of where he's at, and Cyril Gane. He's the real deal, but we got to go stay focused on our task at hand and go and fight our fight.
So obviously, you've brought in Rico Verhoeven now, and that has to be incredibly helpful in simulating some of what Cyril Gane may be bringing to the event at UFC 270. But just how helpful has Rico actually been for Francis? How is it working with him, and how does he look in those sessions?
Well, I think, a lot of people don't really understand why we brought him in. A lot of people think we brought him in to mimic Cyril Gane. And yeah, he gives us a great look. He's a kickboxer. He's one of the best in the world. But what people don't really understand was we brought Rico in. So when he moves around with Francis, he can see what Francis might be doing, or tells that Francis might be doing from a different mindset, from a different eye, from the eye of a kickboxer or a world-class striker. So if there's something that he sees from us, hey, you're dropping your hand here, or this is a tell, or I can read this kick, so that's really why we brought him in, was a little bit more of kind of, maybe he can pick up on some things that we might be doing wrong and how to fix some of those holes. So yeah, a lot of people are like, oh, Rico's not like Cyril Gane style-wise. Maybe not. Rico can be anybody in the world if you wanted to act like that, strike like them. He's that good. But really, it was moreover because we wanted to get his eyes on us.
The mindset of a world-class kickboxer.
100%. So, it's like you brought Bill Belichick in to see if there's any holes in your defense, or you bring somebody in.
That's a great comparison right there. There you go.
Exactly. So I think a lot of people don't really understand this shit's chess, not checkers.
So out of all the guys that you have training under you at Extreme Couture, who are some of the guys that really impress you with their mindset and their energy in the gym? Because there's a lot of guys there. You got to get some gym rats in there, man.
Dan Ige, Kai Kamaka, they stand out to me a lot. Just, Kai's a gym rat. He's in there every day. He's constantly, my DMs are full of him finding videos or finding techniques, or he's constantly breaking down tape. He's got the sickness like me, and we watch Peter Yan, we watch Aljamain, we watch these guys that, we like to see in their styles, and how can we implement it to our game? Or if there's one technique that we might have saw and we're going back and forth, and, Dan's the same way. I'll write Dan, hey, what'd you see in this combination here? And not like questioning him. I just want to see what his answer is. And then, we kind of have that back and forth. So those two, especially, man, like I feel like I just have a great kinship with those guys. We're very, very close. But they're always in the gym. They're always competing. Dan's a guy that will, and Kai as well. If you're the toughest dude in the gym, like by far, Max Roshkoff's the hardest wrestler in our room. Toughest dude, ground, like by far. Wrestling, when it comes to jiu-jitsu, and guys run from that guy. People duck Max left and right. Not Dan, not Kai Kamaka, because they know they don't run away from hard work. They run towards it. And I just love being around guys like that.
Have you gotten any work in with Aljamain lately?
Oh, yeah. I just worked with him a couple weeks ago, actually. So
how's he looking?
Before I left, he's been great, man. He's been great. We just kind of monitor some of the body stuff with him, nicks and bruises and things like that. But he should be gearing up here, hopefully for camp. But I probably talk to Aljamain at least maybe once a day or something, back and forth with him. I love the kid, man. He's a competitor. He's a great athlete, great MMA mind. I wrote him, he was there for the fight when Dan fought Josh Emmett. I asked him, like, hey, what did you see? He was sitting in the stands front row, and he's got a great eye for the sport. And there was things that he said that he saw that, kind of opened my mind to some things. So yeah, he's awesome.
Man, thank you so much for joining us once again. For those who don't know, me and Eric have been trying to get this one done for so long. I can't thank you enough for rescheduling and actually getting this one done. And let the fans know where they can find you before we get you out of here.
You can find me on Instagram at Eric_XCMMA.
And we hit the trifecta with this one. Thank you to Eric Nicksick, as we thank all of our guests on the first episode of MMA Overtime, once again here on the Overtime Heroics MMA YouTube channel, working on getting us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We'll be there. Give me a week. By the time episode 2 and 3 come out, we'll be everywhere, man. You want to listen to us in your car? You can. Want to throw us on your TV? You can. You got your phone, you got sitting there under your blankets, you got your mom telling you go to sleep, you can throw us on right there. But we've reached the end. A special thanks, as always, to the guests, but one step above, to Lewis Simpson, Makoa Gable, and to Overtime Heroics. We've got something special working on over here. YouTube's going to switch up. Website's going to switch up. We got some special stuff coming, man. Ben, go ahead and tell the fans what you've got to say before we sign off.
I mean, first of all, like you just said, I want to thank all the guests that we had today. And I am going to put a little promotion in. The next few weeks we've got coming up, some of the guests we have, I can't wait to interview them. You can't wait to watch them. But it's been a pleasure to talk to everyone. I've had fun, and we will be back next week. And that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We hope you guys have enjoyed. Make sure you click the like on the video. Drop a comment. We want to talk to you guys. Hit the subscribe button to Overtime Heroics, and make sure to follow me over on Uncaged Media on YouTube. We put out some content there as well. You'll be seeing a lot of this guy. With me as well over there. But this has been a blast. Once again, you've been tuned in to MMA Overtime on the Overtime Heroics MMA YouTube channel, and we will let Eric Nicksick take you guys on at it.
No problem. Hey, this is Eric Nicksick, and thank you for listening to MMA Overtime. You can find me on Instagram at Eric_XCMMA.